Have you ever been faced with an obstacle that was so big, so enormous, so insurmountable that you had no clue how you were going to be able to overcome it? I mean, maybe it was a financial problem or a relational problem, maybe it was a job problem or something with a friend or a child or a parent. But we've all had obstacles in our way that are literally getting between us and the hope and joy and happiness that we long to have. And sometimes when these obstacles seem so big, it's hard to know how we're going to get over it because we might not feel like we have the strength or the mental capacity or the resources to be able to overcome that obstacle. Just last year, the year had started. My wife and I had made New Year's resolutions. We were excited for what the year was going to hold for us. Our 3-year-old daughter had just turned 3. We had another baby on the way. Our family was growing. Everything was going according to plan. We had adjusted to our new life in Illinois. We had our walking paths. We had our routines. After dinner, we would go for these nice, beautiful walks. And then I got a phone call. I got a phone call from our landlord and he said, "Hey, we are not going to be able to renew your lease for the next year. So if you can get all of your stuff out by September 1. It was August 14 when he had called me to tell me that we were literally going to be homeless. And in that moment, I had that pit of my stomach feeling anxious. I didn't know what was going to happen. I instantly went into worst case scenario. I started picturing my family, my pregnant wife, my 3-year-old daughter, and myself living in a tent on the side of a highway. Or I thought to myself, we're going to have to move back to one of our parents' houses because what are we going to do without having somewhere to live? I'm going to miss out on the dream job that I came to Illinois for. Because before that we had been living in sunny, beautiful California. We had a home that we liked, a neighborhood we liked living in, friends, family. And did I mention that it was beautiful weather all year long? And so we started questioning everything. Did we make the right choice coming to Illinois? Did we make the right choice taking this job? This obstacle of not having a home, you might think to yourself, well, you just find another place. But it was during the time when the market was hot. Properties were going over the asking price, rents were climbing. It felt insurmountable to us. So after my wife prayed about it and talked about it and prayed some more, we made the first step of calling a loan officer. Well, maybe this is our turn to purchase a house. And that conversation went great because everybody wants to loan you money. Then I called my realtor and she said, "Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. The market is really hot right now. It's going to be really hard to find a home, but I'll do my best." And I still remember hanging up the phone and just thinking to myself, God, what is going to happen? Because this obstacle felt insurmountable. So then we did what we all do. We start looking at Zillow and we start seeing just the astronomical prices on these homes. The interest rates were beginning to rise. It was an insurmountable obstacle and we had no idea how we were going to make it work. In that moment, it reminds me of a passage in Scripture. And I want to read to you from the book of Joshua, chapter 1, verse 2. And before I read that passage, I just want to tell you what's going on. The Israelites had been enslaved in Egypt for more than 400 years. God sends a man named Moses to rescue the Israelites. And he says, I am not only going to rescue you and give you your freedom, but I'm going to send you into a land that will be your own, and a land flowing with milk and honey, which was a biblical way of saying it'll have everything and so much more than you can imagine and need. So God brings the Israelites to the border of the promised land. Moses lays down to his rest. He dies. And so then a man named Joshua comes up and stands up, and God calls him to lead the Israelites into the promised land. But before they could enter the promised land, there was a river they had to cross. And it was a river without a bridge. The Jordan River was this magnificent river, and it was the one thing, the obstacle, the Jordan, that was standing between the promise that God had made the Israelites and the fulfillment of that promise. And here's what God tells Joshua in Joshua chapter 1, verse 2. He says, "Arise, cross this Jordan." God says, all right, Joshua, it's time. You have seen Moses lead. You have been by his side. You were his helper. You were his apprentice. Now it is your turn. Arise, get up, come on, let's go, because we are about to cross this insurmountable obstacle called the Jordan River. And then a few chapters later in Joshua chapter 3, verse 8, this is the instruction that God gives him. It says, you are the one, Joshua, who shall command the priests who bear the ark of the covenant. When you come to the edge of the waters of the Jordan, you shall stand still in the Jordan. When the soles of the feet of the priests who bear the ark of the Lord of all the earth, rest in the waters of the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan flowing from above shall be cut off, and they shall stand in a single heap. Did you catch what the Bible said? It said, when you get to the waters of the Jordan, have the priest step into the river, and you shall have them stand still. Now, I don't know about you, but that is a scary proposition. Because earlier in the story, when God had parted the Red Sea, he had parted it before the Israelites had stepped into the river. And now we see that God is saying, you've already seen what I can do. I can part the ocean. I can part the sea. This river is nothing. I can do this. But you see, God asks these Israelites to stand in the river, take a step into the river, and then stand still, and then watch as God does miraculous things. You know, sometimes we find ourselves in these moments faced with these obstacles, not knowing how we're going to overcome them. And God simply says, listen, just take that first step forward. Take that first step forward with faith, believing just as I have won battles before in your life, I can win this battle that you are standing in front of. And in fact, God says, take a step of faith and then stand still and watch as I help you overcome this obstacle. Take a step of faith and watch as I help you to cross this Jordan. But before we see the miracles of God in our lives, there are times when you have to take that step of faith. You know, that's what happened for my wife and I when we thought that we were going to be homeless, or we thought we were going to have to move back to our parents' house. We simply started taking one step of faith forward at a time, one step at a time, calling the loan officer, calling the realtor, looking for homes on Zillow and Realtor.com, doing all of those things, doing everything that we could, the whole time trusting that God, as we stand still waiting for him, would part the Jordan for us, would help us to overcome that obstacle. And I got to tell you that from the moment we got that phone call until the time that we moved into our home, it was less than 3 months. God helped us to overcome that Jordan in our lives. And I've got to tell you that it was nothing other than the divine providence of God, because it was a difficult housing market. I wonder what it is that is getting in between you and the joy that God has for you. I wonder what your Jordan is, what your obstacle is that you are allowing to suck the joy and happiness out of your life. I wonder what it would look like if you would simply just take that first step of faith and then stand still and let God do miraculous things. Whatever your Jordan is, the God of all the earth has power over all things, can help you to overcome and cross the Jordan in your life. God bless you.